Boopity boop boop. Hello. How dare you be yellow? Yes, there you go. Willkommen to part 2 of this abomination. The editor. I think there's no avoiding having modes. So, but I do like, I would like to somehow get rid of that. Oh. And of course I start debating myself when I start streaming. Also, I do realize that the input object is pure and can be moved outside, which I will do. Why is it pure? Well, this is never gonna change. It may change if you restart the program, but then you've restarted it anyway, and this is gonna be evaluated again. And once you start the program, the version is static. Unless so you somehow shim Python, but I don't know how you shim Python, or if you even can. Actually, can you? Can you shim Python? Pip shims. Pip shims is a set of compatibility access shims to get to the pip internal API. Pip shims provides compatibility with pip version 8 Frederican release 18.x. The shims are provided using a lazy import strategy by hacking a module by overloading a class instance's getAttribute method. This library exists due to my constant writing of the same set of import shims across many different libraries according pipenv, piptools, requirements lib, and pasa. I'm not meaning to have this sound derogatory, but if you're having to write stupid shimming code for loads of things you do, maybe it's an error, or maybe it's implemented in the wrong way. On either side, maybe pip is exposing its API in the wrong way. Maybe, yeah, something to think about. Like, since there's some obvious shit happening that you need to do to get access to something that you need to use over several places, that functionality should be changed in the base, in the package you're using, so pip in this case. Big bruh moment for me there. What the hell? Okay. Thank you, OBS. I noticed. Streaming in Corona times is weird. ISPs has slowed down my internet. and services are slowing down their internet as well. I mean, Steam, for example. Steam is slowing down downloads. It's capping them to 10 megabits a second. And 10 megabit to megabyte is not that a lot. It's 1.25 megabytes a second. Which means if you're downloading a gigabyte game, and then I mean that you actually have to download 1 gigabyte, Steam might unpack it to be bigger, but if you're actually gonna have to download a gigabyte, that's gonna take 1,000 divided by that many seconds. It's gonna take 800 seconds, which is 13 minutes. I think I did that wrong. That's not correct. Thousand megabyte is a gigabyte. Megabyte per second. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it's going to take 800 seconds to download a gigabyte. And you're probably going to have to download more like 5 gigs for larger games-ish. That's 4,000 seconds. 4,000 seconds happens to be over an hour, I think. That's 66 minutes. Yeah, 1.1 hour. Or 1 hour and 6 minutes. And 1 hour, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Rounded up. So yeah, streaming and getting disconnected is... it's not ideal. It breaks my flow, it breaks my train of thought, it breaks everything. Because I have to stop and wait for the thing to reconnect. And that's kind of like throwing ice into a hot box. Or no, flame box, yes. Or coal box, or whatever you call it. You know those furnace things on the trains, steam trains? It's like throwing ice into that. It says, yep. Let's shovel more coal in and... yes, shimming Python. Can we shim Python? Can you shim Python? Yes. Pyenv. Okay. Well, that's a hardware shim right there. Oh boy. Oh boy. Anyway. Unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. I will do a reload. I've been noticing a lot of awful comments. I have a feeling a lot more people are botting now for some reason. They're botting comments. At least every video I get a simple comment from some rando referencing a random time, usually in the beginning, and then it links to some naughty site. That's all I say. Yeah, I guess I'll put that back in for select mode. We forgot the actual step 4. What do you mean my hand navigation is suboptimal? What do you mean? What do you mean I'm navigating the documents inefficiently? Oh yeah, I should probably change that so that doesn't get created, and that's just gonna be imp for input. I should close that. Can't even close Twitch. Nope. What did I even want to go to? Yes, the terminal. Shoes thing still works. So I guess I'm just gonna assume that there is a UI object. Here we go. That pass is not needed there, just so you know. Oh yeah, I need to create my UI class. So, we are now, the editor has now, well, the editor now lives here, and then the UI now lives here. And we should, since these are now different objects, we're gonna have to create some kind of communication interface between them. We're gonna have to be at least sort of clever with it. And this is why people don't use classes, because they're annoying. They're cumbersome. They make you do work that you don't need yet. But you will need it in the future if you're going to keep growing your project. And that's why classes are better than most people say they are. they force you to think of the future in a way. Because once you have classes, you can spawn more of those classes, which kind of complicates things, which makes you think. It makes you take things into consideration. Oh, what the? Oh, stupid microphone. Stop that. Okay, whatever. I'll do. We're gonna have some kind of state. We could set up an enum class for that, I guess. Class enum state from object. Now, enumerators, they don't really exist in Python. It's just something that you have to pretend exists and use something else in its place. And for that we're using a class. You could use a number, you could use a string. It doesn't really matter. I prefer the class way, because that's how I was introduced to it. There's probably better ways. Either way, the way I learned it is that you... actually, I don't know if this might need external libraries. Actually, let's just not care and just try for ourselves, you know? Be a bit daring. Risk a few hours, you know? Risk some brain cells. So, we're gonna have an invalid state at the beginning. We're also going to have select mode. We're going to have select file. We might have to implement substates because of the mode. I guess I could make these binary. That would avoid substates, but it would create a flat set of... I'd still have to have multiple states. It's just a question of if it's flat or deep, essentially. Like, either I could have like cell, whatever, cell, and then I have another class called enum substate. This is a deep object, I guess. And you'd have invalid, you'd have self, okay, selfa, yeah, sure. And the way you would to do this either deeply or flatly, you could either, let's say we have our enum states, and let's say have our substate. Let's just pretend that they work right now as regular enums. This is not a valid Python code, but I think you will see it as pseudocode, I guess. So to do it deeply, you do you essentially you essentially do a switch on okay, Jesus, I'm falling back into C ways here. I'm sorry. So if we have a switch for A, and then a case for 0, case 1, some code there, and then we break. Yeah, this is not liking the way I'm using this. Let's just say break, like that. Here we go. So here we're checking the first, well, the main state, and then in here you'd do another switch for B, and you'd do that where required, essentially. That's deeply. To do it widely, you kind of start off in the same way, but actually, how do I... Okay, so for this one it's a substate, but here it's just another state, even though it's a substate. I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if there is any other permutation on the way to do this. Maybe it's just a difference in definition. Well, I feel stupid. Or maybe I just can't express myself. Yeah, I guess I'll just have to do nested switch checks either way. Whether or not how I think of the definitions in the states. Here's the thing. These two, like, you could split them all up like this and be binary, but then it's no use to have them. Or you can like add them in here, but then you have to like prefix them so that you know, and that can get very wordy and very like what the heck is going on kind of deal. Yeah. Let's keep it like this for now. So we start in invalid. Is there like a getter and setter thing I can override in Python? Python getter setter override. Getter and setter in Python. Yeah, that's not how I want to do this. I want to just do a check, like equals equals check. It's probably the magic functions. Python magic. Everyone knows an init and del. But I want to, yes, making operators work on custom classes. Here we go. Compare equal, negative, less than, greater than, less than equal, greater than equal. Question. Can I just add crap to a number? That's the wrong command prompt. Yeah. Python. I wonder, does so the number 1, what does the number 1 have in it? It is an object. It's actually a complex number because it has a real and imaginary part. It has a numerator and a denominator. Just as I log into the router to see what the heck is going on, it gets back up again. I find that amusing. Either way, it works. So presumably UI state is now 0, but I could also set it to, let's set it to mode edit. And that should be free. Let's check if that works. Yeah, that's in there. Let's go into interactive. Let's check the editor. It exists. Yes. Does the UI exist in the editor? It does exist. Does UI.state exist? Yes, and it is a free. Hey! So yes, I don't need to initialize it. Everything stated in here just exists statically in the thing. So technically, for this UI class, you could just do, well, you could do UI.run, but you'd have to give it an object like self, and that would have to come from somewhere, and you could probably do like that here. But I think this will work, honestly. Seems to be working. Let's check our editor. Let's check our UI. Yep. And if I do UI, I will get, yeah, so import UI, no, from UI import UI. So now I have UI. Now editor.ui is the object. It's the actual object, but the UI, the big UI, is the class. And if I just try to call the .run function, it will say unbound method. You need to give it an argument. And we can actually just pass it 0 here, and it's going to be like, yeah, nah, that's not a UI instance. So it does have to match the type, but then it actually works. And if you want, we could put up print in here just for, yeah, see, it runs between every shoes thing. And we can do editor.run, no, editor.ui.run, and that will print as does. But again, we can do from UI imports get actual class. And again, we can't just call .run, but if we give it the, again, give it the editor UI, it will act exactly as if you did ruin, no, not ruin, run. There you go. Those two are equal. Python is weird. You're never really inside an object. You don't really have a well, you do have a context, but it's weird. It's weird. I can't describe it, but it's weird. Either way, we're gonna start with the thing at invalid, and at the initialize we're gonna set the state to select mode. And I don't think there are switch cases. In Python. I think the elif is basically the best thing you have. Python switch case. That's Java. Bruh. Yeah, it's a if elif. Oh god. Oh my god. Why would you do that? What is this? Oh my god. I mean, I can see that this would be necessary for very large switch statements, just to keep your code sane. But as functions? I have so many questions. No, I will not. Actually, I will go away now because you said that. Whatever that said. And yes, that's how most of us react to that shit. We just go away. Dear companies, stop being assholes on the internet. So that's kind of sad. It's that should never happen, but what's next? Select mode. I mean, maybe separating into function isn't such a bad idea anyway. But I would never name them like that. Like they did, like, oh, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. I'd be like, nah. I'd be like, hell nah, bruh. What does it say? Run mode. Uh-huh. So far so clean. And I would just have to define 3 more functions and populate those. Define cell mode. Define mode edit. Define mode merge. Still runs. Does it run on other Python? Yep, but it entered invalid state. Oh, because self.state, yes, that makes more sense. Woohoo! It's doing shite. Anyway, that brings me back here to the editor, because this should be in the UI. I think. Something like that. This is not optimal, because I'm copying code. Don't do this. Select mode. Select file. Yeah, select files. Yeah, I'll just make it unambiguous. Every mode can work with multiple files. Both modes can work with multiple files. No, I will not make that leap just yet. Now the UI is gonna have to communicate back to this editor. Otherwise we're just gonna end up doing everything in the UI again. Which is not what we want. So I want UI.run to return something like an action to do. And this action is of course going to be an enum. So that's basic. Invalid action, which is the same as no operation. And no operation, which is obviously don't do jack shit. It's easy to implement, you just ignore it. Now, this communication back, it's gonna have to be. We can't just send the enum back. It's gonna have to know some more information, but than that, it's gonna need to return some arguments as well. So we'll have actually we'll call this an action, even though it's gonna be a tuple. It will be a tuple of unknown size. It will at least have one thing in it, which is the first object, which allows us to check it. Check the 0th object, aka the first object, and if it's and enum action dot invalid, then we print invalid action returned, and this is like invalid state. Yeah, I'll do that. So as you see, we're moving stuff over from the editor to the UI, and we're moving stuff from the UI back to the editor. It's just the things you end up doing. Design is iterative, and that applies to this too. I think that will literally be optimized out by Python, but at least I'm thorough. So we have invalid and no operation. We probably wanted to move, remove, create, and then I get stuck thinking like, move can be done. by having a remove and a create. But that means the UI has to do that over 2 ticks. And it needs to be kind of persistent. I don't feel like I really want that. The less persistence, the better, usually. You should only keep the things persistent that you absolutely need to, such as your current state, for example. But much other than that, I just like it to be non-statical. I'd like it to not rely on what state it's in, because the more states you have, the more likely it is that you missed some kind of edge case or corner case or whatever, and it will just somehow lock up or break. It's just inevitable. The more persistent things you have, the more those persistent things are going to interact weirdly with each other if you allow them and build it in that way. And it's hard to not build it in that way, because that's the entire point of computing, is to change things over time and to calculate and to change persistent numbers, or to calculate things from persistent numbers. Either way. This might be cleaned up. I don't know if this is still a good idea, but what more do we might need? Okay, I just realized something. The editor is going to have to send things to the UI. The UI is going to have some knowledge about what the editor is actually doing. I'm starting to think maybe it wasn't a good idea to separate these, because it means I'm going to have to recreate a lot of communication channels between these two. This is already a mess, logistically. We are still going. The thing is, the merge mode and the edit mode are both going to have to communicate with these two, with these actions. And I don't know how to generalize that, really. Hmm. 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 Okay. I think that will do it. Edit for editing an existing recipe. The UI will give back an ID and the changes it wants to make. Basically, a new JSON object. Remove will, well, it will remove a thing. Create will, well, it will create a thing. And move will move a thing from one file to another. So what arguments will edit have? Edit will give a UUID and the new object. Remove will just have a UUID in file. Create will have UUID in file. I think this is also gonna have to take file actually. And that's gonna be file for move because we're moving between two files. So edit, you give it a reference to the thing, a file it will find it in, and that it will edit it in, and the object it will be replaced by. And this will be gotten, I guess, by the UI will have some sort of access to the item index. I guess I'll just pass it item index. Or maybe I can just pass self to it. Oh god, this is dangerous. self.ui.run self. Yeah, this is this is weird, and I don't want it there. I want it in the init, which means I don't want it there. I want it there. Start the UI with self. This is easy. This is easy mode. When you pass yourself into another object, that's just easy mode for communicating back, because now I can do other dot items and reverse items. Actually, items and reverse items are gonna update. No, they are not. We're just editing recipes, we're not adding new blocks. So this will not change. You could equally easily do this by just having items and rev items here. And that would suffice as well. Then we don't need to pass in self to get access to stuff. So there we go. Did I put the... Yes, the invert dict is pure. I might need that in the UI, but not yet, so... anyways, we have items, we have rev items. That way we can now get back to doing stuff. Let me just make a little helper for getting a number. How does this have access to imp? Imp doesn't exist here, it only exists here. What the? Python still confuses me to this day. It's definitely not like C, or C# or Java. It's its own little thing. What's imp coming from? Who knows? The thing that imported you has it, so you don't need to worry. That's bad. I should probably put these in a helpers file. Let's do that right now. Yoink. Yoink. And that's helpers dot py. Do I need JSON here? I do. There we go, that should still run. It does not run because I have botched code. Oh god. Ow. Oof. Invert dict is not defined in integer pi. Okay, I get it. From helpers, import, everything. This is two things anyway. This is one function and, well, two functions. Probably don't need it there yet. What did this need OS for? OS path, yes. Items is not defined. Oh, because I should probably reference self. Like, this is what I mean with you're not inside an object in Python. You always have to say self dot. Like, instead of being inside the object, like in C# where you can just do items and it will just know that, oh, it's the local items. In Python, it's kind of like you're not inside the object, you're carrying the object under your shoulder and referencing it every once and again. Where did it go? Here. Like in C#, this would just work. Actually, this would be standard C#. But since this is Python, we have to reference that little box we're carrying around. That is self. Yay, we are in select mode and it fucking crashed. Because I did not return anything from UI run. These will be interpreted as invalid, I believe, because that's what invalid is set to. And here we're gonna return 0, sure. Actually, I guess we can just do no op. Int object is not subscriptable. Yeah, because we need to have it a tuple. There we go. It's working. I think. So by definition, it's never gonna do any editing in this select mode. Oh yeah, I did add select file as well. Actually, can I do that so I don't have to do it up here? That would be nice. Oh, actually, it's gonna nest them. It's gonna nest them. I don't want to do that. I have a feeling it's just gonna nest the heck out of them. There we go. That's Python 3. Check Python 2. That works. So in Python 3, when you... Oh. In Python 3, you get the end of file error. In Python 2, it triggers my keyboard interrupt. Interesting. Where did I... There's that loop. I'll just keep it like that for now. I want to be raised every error. Yeah, it just makes the stack a bit longer. I don't care. Let's see here. Audio is still good. Yes. It's all good. Yeah, the number input. I think that's valid. Okay, so that function is there, it's compiling. No idea if it's acting like I want it to though, so let's check that. So let's do input number on these instead. Let's see if... I don't know if the editor is running in between there. Let's check. Self-tick. Print editor tick. Okay, so it does one editor tick, and now we're stuck in that same input get number input number. Also, that should live in helpers. Hi there, welcome to helpers. How are you? So there we go, one editor tick. If we do that, it's just gonna keep asking for select mode until I do 1, and then it does editor tick, and or any number. If I do any valid number, it's gonna do editor tick. If not, it's, well, it's not. That's nice. So that works as intended so far. Python is a bit weird when you're checking for none for some reason. Hence why I put t is none. None is a single object. You can say b equals none here, and now b and t are actually the same object. They're both none. They're both null in a way. So we're checking, are they still exactly the same? I'm not sure if this works. I don't know if this equal here does a type comparison, but that's what you should do. So I think this will work, but yeah, that works, but it's more wordy. However, I don't think this will work. I'm not sure though. Let's test. It does work. Okay. It does sketch me out of it because it's an equality check for none. This is usually math, and this is not math related. I've ran into issues where people used equal and is, especially is. Is notorious. Don't use is if you absolutely need to. So I guess in theory I should do that then. But here's the thing. If 5 is 5, well, let's just do this. Team P equals 5 is 5. This will be true. If you do 100 is 100, this will be true. If you do 500 is 500, that is actually false. Welcome to Python number caching. Python caches the first numbers between 0 and 256. So this is statement will work from 0 to 255, and I think to negative 255 as well, because those numbers always have the same, though they are pre-cached, they always exist in a way in Python. Python always has a reference to the number 0 somewhere back there, because 0 isn't just a mathematical 0 for Python, it's an actual object with functions and classes. So it makes sense to have commonly used numbers like small numbers and up to a certain power of 2. It makes sense to cache them for better speed. However, it does introduce this kind of wacky behavior. And in fact, let's just demonstrate here. 5 is 5. True. 100 is 100. True. 500 is 500. Wait, they fixed this? I wrote a whole paper on this back in the day, and they fixed it? Ah. Oh, no. I think I remember. 5 is 5 plus 0. This will be true. 5 is 4 plus 1. this will also be true. 50 is 40 plus 10. Yes. 500 is 400 plus 100. False. Congratulations. When you create new numbers, actually, can we check? Is there like a unique ID? Can I get like the address of this thing? Can I get where it lives? Index, is that it? 0 dot underscore index. What? Zero dot real? Okay. Apparently it doesn't work when you're using literals, so let's assign it to an actual variable. So now a is 0. Now a is 0. That will still be true. However, if I did a equals 500 and said a is 500, that will now be false. It's because it's stored in an object. But literals, as in 500, just straight up defined right there, 500 is 500, that's gonna be equal. It's weird. Anyway, the point is something. Wait, can I just Python gets object address ID a.id. What does a have? So I guess, wait, so if I do 400 and do index, it's gonna, okay. So if I override index, I can override the return value of an object when you try to evaluate it, or index it, I guess. But yeah, oh wait, I just realized that ID is not a function of the thing, it's a built-in, isn't it? Yep. So ID of A, that's some number. Okay, let's check, let's clear that down. So the numbers between, I think, negative 256 and 256 are pre-cached somewhere in memory. So the ID of 0, if we do that continuously over and over again, it's not going to change. If we do it with negative 1, it's not going to change, okay? If we do it with negative 100, it's not going to change. It's the same every time. If I do it with negative 250, it's still not going to change, yes. But if I do it with 256, okay, that still works, but 257, what about that? Actually, wait. Notice something here? The ID is the same regardless of the number we put in. So maybe it isn't for negative numbers. Maybe it's just between 0 and 255. Okay, it does for negative 1 and 2. What about negative 8? Okay, it did change and it's staying the same after it changed. How about negative 16? It didn't change. So it's only a small amount negative that it caches, But positively, go back to 0, that's some number, blah blah blah, 7920, and it's gonna stay the same. It's gonna keep being that. If I do 1, it's gonna change, it's gonna move ahead, but it's gonna stay the same if I keep giving it the same number. And this will be true up until 256. It changed, and it's staying the same. If I go down 1, it changed, and it's staying the same. Let's go up again 1 to 255. It changed, and it's staying the same, so it's still cached. And I'm not sure if it will do it for 256. Ah, so it did it for 256, but it's not for 257. Because, look here, the address space is way different. Here it begins at 4656, here it's 4852. So it's clearly in a completely different part of memory. What did I just hear? Okay, that was weird. But yeah. And now, as you see, as we keep going higher up, it doesn't change, because it's just reallocating the same memory. Okay, it is changing, but that's because I'm giving it so large numbers, it has to allocate more bits. And now when we're really large up, you see it's changing every time. Now this becomes a bit more consistent when you do it as an assignment. So if we do a equals 10 and then id of a, that's gonna stay pretty much the same. If we do a equals 9 and do id of a, it changed. Now, technically we didn't change the object a, we just assigned a new number to it, but to Python it actually saw that, hey, that's a low number between -8 and 256. I can probably, or I will, remap that to the cached versions of those numbers that I have at 46, 55, whatever. But as soon as you go outside of that range and say, let's say a equals that number, it's suddenly all the way over here at 48. And if we do this assignment again, with one smaller 0, I think it's going to be the same object, i.e. it's going to have the same, no, it's going to recreate, yes, this assignment here actually recreated the object A, I think. But yes, the position in memory really, if you visualize these numbers in your head, you basically find that if this is memory, I mean, this is not normalized in any way, shape or form, but somewhere in memory you have X amount of cache for just those 256 numbers. And then way over here, or somewhere over here, the actual heap is, and the actual object, like the dynamic objects live. It's a weird quirk of Python that I had to figure out on my own, and that I eventually did a write-up on. But just this. 5 is 4 plus 1. True. 50 is 40 plus 10. True. 500 is 400 plus 100. False. And the reason why I have such knowledge of this is because I had to deal with code that extensively used is instead of the good old double equal check there. Because with double equal, it works completely fine. And that is because is does a compare of the IDs. Is equals, or is, does this. Essentially. And it ate it. No, it didn't. There it is. Is still checks numbers, but it's just checking the IDs of the objects instead of the value of the object. You're checking, is this object this other object as well? Are they the same object? That's what is does. Whereas compare checks if they are equivalent. I could do this is going to be true. However, I'm not sure that will be the case when you use is. Oh, it is. However, it will not if you use a. If you set a to 1000 and check 0 is a negative 1000, I think... okay, no. This is getting weirder and weirder. It's something to do with that there's a literal here. As soon as there's a literal in the mix, it kind of checks. Or it always checks, and because it was 0, yeah, I should probably redo that. But with some large number, like 500. So 500 is 1000 negative 500. False, yes. So it's when you modify integers or objects, they get reassigned a new ID. However, the ID... I think the thing with literals is that you can have many literals on one line, but if they're all the same, you're gonna get the same ID. Look, these are all the same. 4852, 28, 2584, 2584, 2584. They're the same object. However, if I did a equals 500, if I did a, b, c equals 500, 500, 500, and did print a ID of those, I think they're going to be different. And they aren't. This is weird. Let's try separately. Now they're different. See, this is... Python is a magical thing. Let's not. And also that kind of exhausted my head a bit. And also the chat broke again. Who cares? No one. Because no one's here anyway. See? 0. No one is here. And no one will ever be here. And this is just a data dump for the future that no one will ever even care about. Hey! But yeah. Equal equals and is and none and all those. I get a bit afraid when those get mixed, like here. Have to check for none. I always start to question myself, like, is it is or is it equal? What detrimental effect does it have if I use is? What detrimental effects does it have if I use equals? Yeah. Anyway. What was I even doing? Uh, this is perfect. So once we're done in select mode, we're going to move to select file. And the response here is going to use to be set gonna have to add a persistent variable here. Damn it. Damn it. I don't want to. I do not want to. Yeah. Mode is none. File is none. Okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's try it again. 1, select file, 1, sure. Now we're back in select mode again, because 1 is select mode. Well, let's do... let's get into edit mode. It's not gonna be any different, but let's choose that file. And there we are. We're now in mode edit, which just asks for a blank input, which is what we have. And it returns an invalid action, just like we suspected. Everything is working perfect so far. Now we just have to now we just have to implement the actual things. Damn it. We probably want to sit in a search loop. Let me just write it out. While true, which essentially says forever. While true, search for object to edit. Once selected, break. And enter edit face. I guess that's going to be part of the same function. So if the response is empty, if not length of response, we break. Which brings us on to here, which is edit face. Empty response again to commit, and then it actually is gonna do it. Maybe this should have been part up here of the state. So you have select mode, select file. Maybe we should have select object. This doesn't feel right to be here. Let's add the mode edit offset here. So that 0 becomes 4 and 1 becomes mode merge. 5, I mean. Let me move over to select objects. I'm just gonna stick to number input now because, well, easy. Also, to those of who do this, I get that it looks nice, but it's a pain to navigate, so please stop. So it will not get out of select file. Eh. What? Why? Why? Why you stuck in select file? Why input number no worky? Like what? Oh. Yeah, I should probably change the string here so I don't get confused. Select mode 0, select file, whatever number that is, select object, that object, and there we go. We can also try and go into the other mode. Yep, that works. And if we now go into a completely invalid mode, it's gonna be like, yo, what the fuck? Yeah, it's just gonna be like, bruh, not subscriptable, doesn't even exist. You didn't return the right thing. Which reminds me, I should probably have a safety return here to return enum action invalid. Mode 456, which doesn't even exist. File 5, object 8452. Crash. Int object is... oh yeah, because I needed that thing. Damn it. I feel stupid. That mode with that file with that object. It's not crashing. But maybe I should have it exit and crash there. I guess that can be a signal to exit as well. Just panic and give up, I guess. No, not for now. I will not have that for now. And I will not have that for now. I will just have it error out on its own, like it was before, because that was more convenient. See, it errored out, or if it actually works properly, it doesn't completely... Even if it's failing here, it's not crashing. So, yeah, to change that we must fix these. Yeah. I guess I should have an action for quit or exit. Yep, works as I expected it to so far. Notice how, if you noticed how distraught I was that I needed to add a mode persistent variable, you now notice I have two more. And that's the thing. When you're working with persistent things, you're gonna have to use more persistent things to keep track of the persistent things. So when you start using uh, persistent values or objects that stay around for longer than one cycle, I guess, you you're just inevitably going to end up with more. And I think it's this state here that actually brought in the mode, then the mode brought in the file and object. It is the way it's just the way it works. It's just the way humans do logic, I guess. Let's exit if we are in merge mode, just to test. Okay, that was mode 0, aka edit. Let's try mode 1, aka merge. And look at that, it quit. Without any errors. There we go. Hem. Plants. Paint can. Spaceship frame. Ooh. Nice. I guess the UI will keep track of the categories and stuff. Categories, search, or category / search. And in the editor, this thing is basically gonna implement the actions. This is gonna refine action definitions, if that needs doing. Also, you know how I complained before about this? This and this is not the same. This is code. These are comments. I gladly allow you to, well, do whatever the hell you please, but if I were you, this is completely fine. Ish. It is a bit of a hassle when you're trying to navigate around here with the keyboard and stuff, but overall it's a trade-off, I guess. I'm hitting Shift tab and it's tabbing more. I find that disturbing. But yes, in my mind, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, just, you're allowed to do whatever you want, but as I said, in my opinion, comments, well, tables like these are easier to read when they are like this and not this. Like this looks cluttered. Like you can't really line stuff up. Well, here you can clearly see that UID is like the primary, and the files is secondary, and maybe there's more after that. But down here I don't feel like I need it, because it just feels like a waste of space to do this. Or that, for that matter. It looks better, but it feels like I'm wasting this space here. And furthermore, this will drive me insane. Like things like that. Like how do you properly balance this? And this to me kind of looks off, because it's not. Now this doesn't add up. So it's I don't know. I guess this is what I'm used to, and this is also what I'm used to, which is both things, but for different things. So it's both, but it's none, but it's still all, but it's still nothing, but it's context. Yeah, it's context. Either way, I will work on this in the background, because I've driven myself into a ditch, basically, with this code. It's asking some hard questions of me. Like, should the editor have a hold of the UI, or should they be side by side and be controlled by this base SMRE script? Or but then this is the question: how do you properly interact between them, and how do you know which one is going to get the next tick? Alternatively, the UI could handle everything and tell and the UI would hold the editor, and the editor would live in here. Basically that here in UI, although here in init. I don't know. I have to think it over, I think.